These signs show God is trusting you with more. There is a quiet, sacred work God does long before he ever entrusts someone with more. It doesn't begin with expansion, visibility, or increase. It begins in places most people never applaud: hidden moments, unseen decisions, private obedience. God's trust is never random. It is intentional, measured, and deeply relational. He does not give more to those who simply want more. He gives more to those who have learned how to carry responsibility without losing humility, how to walk with him without needing constant affirmation. You may be in a season where life feels restrained rather than expanded. You are growing, but not outwardly. You are learning, but quietly. You are being shaped in ways that don't immediately translate into visible progress. And it's easy to misinterpret this season as delay or limitation, but Scripture reveals something different. God often holds back increase, not because you are unready in ability, but because he is still forming trust in the heart. Trust with God is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about how you respond when things don't go your way, how you treat people when there is nothing to gain, how you remain faithful when obedience costs more than it comforts. God watches how you steward what is already in your hands before he places anything more there. This kind of formation is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. You may notice that your reactions are changing. Your prayers are deepening. Your motives are being refined. God is less concerned with how quickly you move forward and more concerned with who you are becoming along the way. Because what he plans to entrust to you must be sustained by character, not just passion. The Bible is clear. Faithfulness comes before fruitfulness. Trust comes before increase. God prepares people internally before he expands them externally. He works within you so that when more arrives, it doesn't overwhelm you, corrupt you, or distract you from him. If you've sensed that God is doing something deeper in you, something quieter, slower, more intentional, this message is for you. These signs are not about earning God's trust, but about recognizing how he builds it. And as you begin to see them, you may realize that God is already preparing you for more than you think. Number 1, you're faithful in what feels small, hidden, or unnoticed. One of the clearest signs you are becoming someone God can trust with more is your faithfulness in places that feel insignificant. You show up when no one is watching. You remain obedient when there is no recognition. You do what God asks even when it feels small, repetitive, or unseen. This kind of faithfulness is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Scripture tells us that God looks at faithfulness differently than people do. While the world celebrates visibility, God values consistency. Jesus taught that those who are faithful with little will be trusted with much, not because the little is unimportant, but because it reveals the condition of the heart. In hidden seasons, motives are purified. When obedience brings no applause, you learn whether you are serving God or seeking validation. When faithfulness costs time, energy, or comfort, without obvious reward, God sees it as preparation. These moments teach humility, endurance, and sincerity, qualities required to carry more without losing integrity. You may feel overlooked right now. Your efforts may seem unnoticed, but God is not absent from these moments. He is watching how you steward what is already entrusted to you. Faithfulness in the small is never wasted. It becomes the foundation upon which greater responsibility is built. If God has kept you in quiet obedience, don't despise the season. He is shaping you into someone who will not need recognition to remain faithful. That kind of heart can be trusted with more. Number 2, God is teaching you to handle disappointment without bitterness. Another powerful sign that God is preparing you for more is how you respond to disappointment. Not every prayer is answered the way you hoped. Not every door opens when you expect it to. And in those moments, God watches the heart carefully. Disappointment has the power to harden or to mature. Bitterness grows when unmet expectations turn into resentment. But spiritual maturity develops when disappointment is processed with honesty, humility, and trust. God uses these moments to shape emotional resilience and spiritual depth. Scripture shows us that those God entrusted with greater responsibility first learned how to endure loss without losing faith. Joseph was betrayed before he was promoted. David waited years after being anointed. Jesus himself endured rejection without bitterness. Disappointment did not derail their purpose, it refined it. God knows that bitterness poisons stewardship. A heart weighed down by resentment cannot carry increase with grace. So he allows disappointment not to wound you, but to teach you how to release what didn't happen into his hands. If you've been learning how to grieve outcomes without losing peace, how to forgive when it's hard, and how to keep trusting even when hopes are delayed, God is doing something significant in you. He is building a heart strong enough to receive more without becoming hardened by the journey. Handling disappointment with grace is not weakness. It is strength. And it is one of the clearest signs that God is shaping you into someone he can trust with more. Number 3, your character is being tested more than your gift. One of the strongest indicators that God is preparing you for more is that he begins testing your character more than your ability. Your gifts may still be present. Your skills may still be growing. But the pressure you feel is no longer about performance. It's about integrity. God is less concerned with what you can do and more concerned with who you are becoming while you do it. Scripture consistently shows that gifting can open doors, but character determines how long you remain there. God watches how you respond under pressure, how you speak when misunderstood, how you act when no one is correcting you. These moments reveal whether your heart is anchored in truth or driven by convenience. Character testing often shows up quietly. You are faced with choices that seem small, but carry weight. You are tempted to compromise, just a little, to cut corners, to justify behavior because no one will notice. And in those moments, God is forming something eternal within you. This testing can feel heavy because it exposes inner values. But God is not trying to catch you failing. He is strengthening your resolve. He is teaching you to choose what is right, even when it is costly, slow, or unseen. This kind of character can sustain influence without being corrupted by it. If you feel like God is pressing on your integrity right now, take it seriously, but not fearfully. This is preparation. God entrusts more to those whose character can carry it without collapsing under pressure. Number 4, you're learning to obey God, even when it costs you. Another clear sign that God is preparing you for more is when obedience begins to cost you something. Early obedience often feels rewarding and encouraging, but mature obedience requires sacrifice. God watches closely how you respond when following him requires letting go of comfort, approval, or control. Scripture shows us that those God trusted with more first learned how to obey without guarantees. Abraham obeyed without knowing where he was going. Ruth obeyed without knowing how the story would end. Jesus obeyed even when obedience led to suffering. Obedience rooted in love, not convenience, is what God looks for. This stage often reveals attachment. You discover what you're willing to release and what you're still holding tightly. God does not force surrender, he invites it. And each time you choose obedience over ease, your trust deepens. Costly obedience is not about loss. It is about alignment. God uses these moments to free you from dependence on outcomes and anchor you more deeply in relationship. When obedience becomes an expression of trust rather than fear, God knows he can entrust you with more. If following God has required hard decisions lately, don't interpret that as punishment. It is evidence of growth. God is forming a heart that values him above convenience, and that kind of heart can be trusted with greater responsibility. Number 5, you're becoming less driven by control and more anchored in trust. One of the clearest signs that God is preparing you for more is a noticeable shift in how you handle control. There was a time when you needed answers quickly, outcomes clearly defined, and reassurance constantly present. But now something is changing. You still care, but you no longer cling. You still plan, but you no longer panic. Trust is slowly replacing urgency. Scripture shows us that God entrusts more to those who can hold uncertainty without losing peace. Control often comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of delay, fear of disappointment. God gently works on that fear by placing you in seasons where control is no longer possible, not to frustrate you, but to free you. This stage can feel unsettling at first. You may feel exposed, vulnerable, and dependent. But dependence is exactly where trust is formed. God is teaching you that He does not need you to manage outcomes in order to remain faithful. He needs you to remain surrendered. As trust grows, anxiety loosens its grip. You begin to rest even when things are unresolved. You stop forcing doors and start waiting for God's timing. This is not passivity, it is maturity. You are learning that obedience is not measured by speed, but by faithfulness. If you feel less desperate for control than you once did, God is doing something significant in you. A heart anchored in trust can carry more responsibility without being crushed by it. God entrusts more to those who know how to let go. Number 6, God is teaching you to love people, not use them. Another powerful sign that God is preparing you for more is a deep change in how you see people. They are no longer stepping stones to purpose or tools for progress. They are souls, assignments, individuals created by God, not means to an end. Scripture is clear that stewardship includes relationships. God does not entrust influence to those who use people to get ahead. He entrusts it to those who can love well, serve humbly, and value others without agenda. This lesson often comes through disappointment. People fail you, misunderstand you, walk away. God uses these moments to strip away manipulation, people-pleasing, and dependency on approval. He teaches you to love without expectation and to serve without leverage. As this transformation deepens, compassion grows. You become slower to judge and quicker to understand. You listen more, you react less. You begin to see others through God's eyes instead of your own needs. This kind of love is costly. It requires patience, forgiveness, and humility, but it is also powerful. God entrusts more influence to those who can handle people with care, not control. If God is softening your heart toward others, even those who hurt you, He is preparing you for more. Because leadership without love is dangerous. But love rooted in truth can steward anything God places in your hands. Number 7, your prayer life is becoming more about alignment than requests. One of the most profound signs that God is preparing you for more is the quiet transformation of your prayer life. You still bring your needs to God, but prayer is no longer centered on getting answers quickly or changing circumstances immediately. Instead, it has become about alignment, about positioning your heart with God's will rather than persuading Him to fulfill yours. Scripture shows us that intimacy precedes increase. As God prepares someone for greater trust, prayer shifts from urgency to surrender. You begin asking different questions. Instead of "when will this change?" you ask, "what are you teaching me here?" Instead of "why is this happening?" you pray, "shape me through this." This change does not happen overnight. It grows through waiting, disappointment, and trust. You learn that prayer is not a transaction. It is a relationship. God is not preparing you to manage more activity. He is preparing you to steward more responsibility with spiritual maturity. Alignment-centered prayer deepens discernment. You begin recognizing when something is from God and when it is driven by fear or desire for control. Peace becomes more important than progress. Obedience matters more than speed. This kind of prayer reveals readiness. God entrusts more to those who desire His will more than personal comfort. Because when your heart is aligned, what God gives will not distract you from Him. It will draw you closer. If your prayers feel quieter but deeper, slower but more sincere, God is working. He is shaping a heart that listens as much as it asks, and that kind of heart can be trusted with more. Conclusion. Faithful with more begins with faithful within. If you recognize these signs unfolding in your life, take heart. God is not withholding more because you are unworthy. He is preparing you because you are valuable. Trust with God is built slowly, intentionally, and lovingly. It is formed through faithfulness in the unseen, grace in disappointment, integrity under pressure, obedience that costs something, surrender instead of control, love without agenda, and prayer rooted in alignment. God never rushes this process. What He plans to place in your hands must be sustained by who you are becoming. That is why He works so deeply within you before He expands what surrounds you. If you are in a season where growth feels internal rather than visible, do not lose heart. Heaven is paying attention. God is watching how you steward what you already have, your heart, your character, your relationships, your obedience. Trust this season. Remain faithful. Stay surrendered. God's timing is not slow. It is precise. And when He entrusts you with more, it will not overwhelm you, distract you, or pull you away from Him. It will flow naturally from the person He has formed you to be. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Ask God where He is strengthening trust within you. Share in the comments which signs spoke to your heart. And if you desire more faith-filled, scripture-based encouragement, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. God is not just preparing your future. He is preparing you. And when the heart is ready, God knows He can trust you with more.